Now recently I did a video on some of the unused ideas seen in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time that were a bit, odd. And all of you really love that video. And so I am back to bring the people more of what they want. But this time, we will be taking a look at the older brother of Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess. This is the more mature and dark version of Ocarina of Time in many ways. And in the end, it also had a lot of ideas that were scrapped. Some of these are terrifying to say the least and would have made the game a whole lot harder, while others are just adorable little things that for some reason just didn't make it into the game. And so today, we will take a look at some of the weirdest things that didn't make it into the most mature Zelda game ever released. Number 5. Now, one enemy that is famous for its appearance in Twilight Princess is the Shadow Beast, a creature that strikes fear in almost any Hylian, and they can be a real challenge. You can't leave any of them alive after all, because they can resurrect each other. But sadly enough in the game, they are barely used and are only seen in very specific settings. Which is a bit sad. It would have been cool if these enemies were also seen in the world itself, and I think that was originally going to be the case. Because there's another type of Shadow Beast known as the Twilight Assassin that was never really used in the game. It was only seen in one teeny tiny cutscene, the one where Zant attacks Hyrule Castle. Now they are depicted as large, more powerful versions of Shadow Beasts, but they were not included as enemies in the final release of the game. They wear a special mask made out of a reflective metallic substance, which bears an interesting looking symbol and two protrusions on the top. Similar to those of the Fused Shadow, but stood closer together. Now, according to their name, they are some sort of assassins. So maybe originally they were gonna randomly attack you in the game. That would have certainly been interesting. And then we could also see the Shadow Beasts more in the actual game. However, for some reason they didn't go with that and just left them in one cutscene, probably because they were lazy or it didn't matter too much. However, later on in this video, I will come back to the Twilight Assassin, because I think some other scrapped content explains some things about this unseen enemy. Number 4. Now, while Twilight Princess is mostly known for its mature and dark theme, there are also a number of adorable things in the game. You know, characters that just warm your heart like Yetta and Yetto. However, they already get enough love. Today, I want to talk about another thing that puts a smile on my face. The dogs that are seen in Twilight Princess. These exist in the game, and normally you can only pick them up and walk around with them and that's kind of it. However, originally, you could do more with them. For example, put them in a canoe and ride the waves with them. Now, no dog can be found anywhere near the two usable canoes in the game, and thanks to this, two dog behaviors go completely unused. One of these is jumping into the canoe and riding in it with Link, and the other is jumping out of the canoe onto land. And this behavior can still be seen in this magazine screenshot before the release of the game. And somebody on the internet actually made it work in-game as well. Because originally there was also supposed to be a canoe in Ordon Village, and here you can actually find a dog. So I bet it was added so you could go fishing here with the dog. And someone by the name of Jackson CAC-W actually made this work in-game once again. Personally, I think this is a small and weird detail that they wanted to add but never did in the end. However, I still love it. And that's mostly because dogs in video games are just as fun as real dogs. Well, that's what Nintendogs taught me at least. Number 3. Now, one of the most iconic locations of Twilight Princess is Farron Woods. It is the first place you actually go to after all, but while the forest looks really good and it's a really fun section of the game, it lacks in some ways. It is so, limited in ways. You gotta follow one set path and there isn't much else to do or see. However, originally they wanted to make Farron Woods completely different, and personally I like the ideas of the first version more. This early version appeared in the first 3 preview trailers for Twilight Princess. And as you can see from this footage, the woods were originally an open-ended forest with no boundaries that contained individual trees. Supposedly, this would have allowed for much more freedom of movement for the player, but later on they went with a more closed-off and linear design, and we have no idea why. And it wasn't just a forest. It looks like there was also a pond of sorts filled with fish. And there are also screenshots of Link fishing in a canoe. So there was going to be another fishing spot here. Clearly the old version of Farron Woods was a lot more interesting than the one we got. We would have been able to really explore this place and go almost anywhere. And this kind of creepy forest would have allowed enemies like the Twilight Assassin to really surprise the player. So maybe we would have seen the Twilight Assassin here as well. However, in the end, we never got anything similar to that. Even in later games, we didn't really see this unless you count Kokiri Forest from Breath of the Wild. And personally, I'm a bit sad we didn't get this. Number 2. Now personally, I'm a big fan of the Balbans seen in Twilight Princess. They were used in some amazing action scenes and were able to effectively pull off guerrilla tactics. All over the world, they can suddenly appear on the back of a giant pig while shooting arrows at you, or they crawl out of the mountainside and then bombard you with arrows. Personally, I love this, because both Bokoblins and Moblins have never really done any of this in games that came before. However, we had to give up something in order to have the Balbans and their leader in the game. To be more specific, this scrap Moblin enemy that uses a gigantic battle axe in a fight. Now I don't exactly know why it was removed. However, its role in the game may have been replaced by King Balban. They do look a bit similar to each other after all. So there is a chance that this was the case. But again, I have no idea. I do think it's sad they didn't add it. We barely saw any big enemies after all, aside from the shadow beasts, so it would have been cool to see these alongside the Lizalfos, who were used a little bit too much in the game. Oh, and yeah, he also looks really weird. Number 1. Now we are down to the last one, and this thing is so cursed that nothing else can even rival it. The Goron Golem, something no man or woman should ever see in his or her life. It's a creature of untold power that could easily survive the return of Ganon. Now, as you can see, it is a gigantic creature made out of numerous rolled up Gorons, which have joined together to form a large golem-like creature, I think. Now, I will admit a lot of people have seen this one, however barely anyone discusses why they even made it. Now, I will say there isn't a real answer to this question, but maybe it was planned as a mini-boss, or it's a base for Phyrus. Especially the last option I mentioned could work. You gotta remember that in our last video we looked at an R-Wing that was used in Ocarina of Time to help with creating the Volvagia boss fight. So maybe they made this golem for a similar reason. And that's why it's never really used in-game as far as we can see. But one thing is clear. This is another game with weird enemies, features, and places that were scrapped and never appeared in the final game. Just like Ocarina of Time, which we covered a while ago. So go check out that video while you're here. It's in the upper right corner. Now thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or whatever, leave them down below, or suggestions. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, click the bell button, do all the good stuff, help your boy Wily, help Papa Wily out. And then I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye!